Hello and welcome to our Dark Wax 101 video. This video is for those of you who are looking to go into using dark wax with a lot of confidence. I know that dark wax makes people very nervous because A, it's very dark, B, it's very instantaneous. You can actually see, your project getting dark and aging before your eyes, and people get nervous because they don't know where it's going or where it's heading, whether they've ruined it, and they start panicking, and they often sometimes stop there and we get a phone call. So this video is going to talk you through the process of dark waxing, what to look out for, how to reverse something you've done, right? So if you can reverse something you've done or fix something, fix a little mistake that you feel like you've made, then with that knowledge, you'll be able to go into dark waxing with a lot of confidence. So this video will show you some of those tips and tricks around dark waxing. Now, you'll be dark waxing if you are looking to create some type of aged paint effect. So dark wax is ideal for French rustic looks, it's ideal for farmhouse rustic looks, it's ideal for kind of shabby looks. You kind of get the drift. It's going to create some age and it's going to create some patina. And also, what's important to know is it's going to create some warmth, add some warmth to your colour as well. Now, dark wax, when you open the lid up, looks like that. A bit like Vegemite or Marmite, whichever you prefer. This is at room temperature, and dark wax should be used at room temperature. So for those of you who live in colder parts of the country, or for those of you who leave your dark wax out in the garage where it gets a little bit colder, bring it inside, just leave it sitting there, bring it to room temperature, and then use it. So dark wax in its natural state is very, very soft. It's a little bit like the consistency of Vaseline. Is probably the best way I can describe it. If it's feeling firm, if it's looking firm, it's feeling firm, then just let it sit at room temperature for a little while. In saying that, if you are looking at creating something super rustic, super aged, then that dark wax at that firm state is ideal for you. So if I was looking at creating something really aged with a really strong patina, something really rustic, because I live here in the winterless north and it doesn't get very cold up here, I'll actually put my dark wax in the fridge for about 30 minutes and then bring it out and use it. It will be a lot firmer. It's going to need a lot more elbow work, a lot more force, but that heavy patina is really instantaneous. But in the most part, I'll do that on the rare occasion, but in the most part, you want to use it at room temperature. It's just the way it's been formulated. It's how you want to use it. It's easy to manipulate. It's easy to manage, and all of the above. So that's the dark wax. Now, I won't get into it too much because I've got here in front of me a board with some detailing on it. This one's been painted in Artisan Kirimi premium chalk paint, and it's basically a cream, a really lovely warm cream, and we're going to age it using the Artisan dark wax on video here, and I'm just going to talk you through all the tips and tricks, and then we'll see the dark wax being applied on a natural piece of furniture, which I did earlier on Artisan sea glass premium chalk paint, so you can see it being worked, and I'll talk you through that on a larger scale. So let's get started. Let's go ahead and dark wax this board, and I'll kind of talk you through it and show you all the tips and tricks, and get you dark waxing with plenty of confidence at home. Let's get started. Okay, so I've got the board in front of me, and this has been painted in Kirimi, so there's quite a bit of texture it's sitting in here. It's looking flat at the moment, but by applying the dark wax, it's going to bring out the texture. I've chosen to do a light colour so that you can actually see it on camera really, really well. Now, dark wax works on pretty much all the colours. It's going to be more subtle on some of the deeper, richer colours or the mid-tone colours. On something that's light and neutral like this, it's going to be very contrasting. So it's probably most scary, if you like, on the lighter colours. So I'm going to do it on a light colour so you can kind of see. So I've got my dark wax. I'm going to use my wax brush, and I'm going to pick up just a small amount, and I'm going to brush it out. So see how I've just used a small amount and I've brushed it out and spread it. So it's very, very soft. You can spread it really, really easily. Going directly on. You're going to need plenty of clean, lint-free rags. And all you're going to do, so at the moment the dark wax is absorbing into the premium chalk paint. It's helping to seal it and protect it and make it really durable. There'll be excess sitting on top, and that's what I'm wiping away. So I'm wiping away the excess dark wax. So that's it. Now often what people do, or what I often see people do, is they grab their dark wax and they get really excited and they load it up with heaps of wax, and then they're going like this, and it's getting a bit messy. There's heaps of dark wax, and then they grab their clean lint-free rag and they're wiping and wiping and wiping, and it becomes a little bit more harder to manage. You still get there in the end, so you can see there's a lot of dark wax there, but you are wasting a lot of wax. So it's better to go light and then come back and darken the areas. It's just a lot more manageable. So I'm going to I've picked up quite a bit there because there was some left over on that brush. So if you've picked up quite a lot, then just keep brushing it out and spreading it nice and thin across the other areas. And dark wax is great for carvings like this because it's going to sit in between the carving and bring out the detail. And then grab your clean lint-free rag and give it a wipe. So the other tip is, when you're wiping dark wax away, you always want to kind of alternate your rag and onto a clean area, into a clean pad. Because if you keep wiping the wax away where there's dark wax already, you're just going to kind of move the dark wax around rather than wiping it back. But you can see by applying the dark wax through here, you can see all the detailing compared to the areas that haven't been dark wax. So this is what dark wax is really, really great for. It's great for bringing out patina, bringing out detail in carved pieces. Now, when you're dark waxing, a must-have is clear wax. So say you made a mistake or you didn't like an area, all you're going to do is pick up some clear wax, and let's do it here. And you're going to work it in circular motions. Kind of like in a scrubbing motion. And then you're going to grab your clean lint-free rag and give it a firm wipe. And you can see it removes it. So the clear wax works like an eraser for the dark wax. So it's always good to have your clear wax on hand just in case. Now I'm going to go back through and just finish off dark waxing the rest of this. And we'll just put some more on here as well. It's very, very fast to do. And I think on that first dark wax application, you really don't need to think too much about it. It's really just about getting it on there, spreading it out. You can see how easy it is to spread out with your wax brush. You work in a section at a time, although the dark wax is very easy to work with. You've got some playtime, some good playtime with it. So you're going to brush it out, clean area of the rag, and wipe it back. And I'm just going to finish off this side while we're here. So you can see it's really warming up the kirimi. It's adding a real age and patina to the whole thing. Now what I often like to do about here, once I've kind of wiped all of my excess dark wax off, is I like to grab my clear wax, pick up just a small amount, and what this part I call highlighting. So where can I do it so you can see? Let's just move this over a little. So I'll just kind of run it just across the surface a little bit, and then I'll grab my clean lint free rag and I'll just wipe back. And what that does is it creates some highlights. So you can see compared to that side, it's brought the kirimi back a little bit more. The dark wax is still in there. The dark wax is in the texture of the brush strokes, but it's lifted it and brought the colour up more. Now it's completely up to you whether you do that or not. You can do this, and this looks lovely. It's very, very aged. It's very kind of patinaed. So there is no right or wrong. It's just what you like. But this is often kind of what I do, depending on, you know, the look that I'm wanting to create. So I'll just kind of very quickly run my clear wax over, and on areas like this, I'll highlight through the center, but I'll leave it together on the edges and the corners. Just gonna move my rag, or old t-shirt I should say. So there we go. So it's kind of like I've lifted and cleaned through the center, and I've allowed it to kind of just sit on the edges and shadow each panel. And when you do that, it happens quite organically. It's a very organic kind of process. It kind of mimics real life kind of patina. So I'll do that again through here. Grab a clean part of my rag and just pull back that center, but allow it to sit around the edges. So I'm going to quickly do that on all the sides. It's very, very instantaneous. You see it happening right before your eyes. So there we go. So you can see it kind of lifting a little bit more, and I'd probably do the same with any square panels like this. I'll just run the leftover clear wax that I've got on my brush over, and I'll just kind of clean through the center, but let it sit darker around the edges. So that's pretty much dark waxing. So that was in a nutshell. So if you know that you can remove with clear wax, you can go into it with a lot of confidence. So clear wax works like an eraser. So the key here is just to get the first dark wax on, and less is more. Spread, spread, spread. Spread it out with your wax brush, and then wipe the excess off with your clean and free rag. The other key tip is to always keep turning your rag, so you're always using a clean part of your rag to wipe the excess. If you need to, go back through and do your highlighting like I've done here, and then you're done. So you can leave it at this point. Now, sometimes what I like to do is I like to also give it just a really light sand. If I'm doing something super rustic, something like this is really beautiful, it's still really soft, and you can absolutely finish here. You could put some gold detailing on it and you would be done. But I'm just going to show you what sanding does. Maybe we'll do it to just half of it. I have some 240 grit sandpaper here, and sometimes what I like to do is I like to just lightly scuff the texture as well. What this actually does is it actually makes it look a lot more rustic than, say, this side. It will bring out the texture in your brushwork. It will kind of lighten some parts a little bit more. It's a very, very subtle detailing, probably less visible on a colour like Kidamy. But it does add another level of depth to it. I'll take some photos so you can kind of see. So that's also one other step that I might do if I was doing something a little bit rustic, and you'll see me do this on a cabinet I was working on earlier, where I put some sandpaper over it, over sea glass, and you'll be able to see it on the sea glass a lot more than, say, on Kidamy. I don't know if I hold it kind of, whether you can see it. So that's pretty much it. Dark wax, not scary at all, very easy to manage. You can totally use the clear wax as an eraser to highlight. So if you've gone too dark, you know how to lighten it. I think that's absolutely key. So it's always good when you're dark waxing to make sure you've got some clear wax on hand if you need it. And when you're dark waxing, yes, it is scary because it goes on and it looks really dark. And when you're working on a big piece of furniture, it's hard to imagine, but you need to go over the entire piece with dark wax, in my opinion, first, and then start highlighting and pulling back to suit the look and style that you're after. So once you're happy with everything, then you can go through with a small wax brush, just pick up the tiniest amount. I will often even dab it off on a rag if I feel like it's too much. And I'm just going to go in and just darken some areas that I feel might need a little bit more accentuating. Now you can see if I did grab a huge amount of wax to do this, it's going to be really globby, and I'm not going to be able to detail if I'm picking a huge amount of wax up. I'm literally picking a small amount, dabbing it off on my rag if I picked up too much. After a while you'll kind of get used to kind of like how much to pick up when you're detailing, and all I'm going to do is go through and purposely darken. It might just be the corners I want to darken and detail a little bit more. Go down the edge, kind of give it a little stippling motion in there. It's very, very manageable when you're picking up just a small amount, and you almost don't even need to wipe it because you're brushing it on in such a thin way. it will be almost air dry by the time you come back to wipe it. So small amount, go back in, and just detail where you want it to be darker. And it's just a little bit of playing back and forth. You just, you darken, use your clear wax to lighten, you can adjust back and forth until you're happy with the level of detailing that you've done. And then I'm going to grab my rag, and I'm just going to, see that's dry already. That's actually dry. There's not much to wipe because that was just such a thin amount, and that's kind of grabbed hold of that and detailed that for me really beautifully. So when you're going to do the last bit of detailing, and just a small thin amount of dark wax, just going back through, darkening and detailing some areas, or just accentuating, just adding a little bit more to it, and then you're done. If you find that you've darkened it too much, go back to your clear wax, just lightly brush it over, move it around and lighten it back up. So the art of dark waxing is really just about creating shadow, creating patina. Think about where the patina would naturally gather, and just work on it. Get the dark wax on the entire piece first, then do your highlighting, and then last but not least, go through and just darken some of the areas that you need to. And if you need to lighten it back up at certain points, you know that the clear wax will do that. So that is more or less the 101 of dark waxing, or everything you need to know to get dark waxing with a lot of confidence. Now, I've used this straight over Kirimi. I've not applied clear wax on it or anything like that. The Artisan Dark Wax is a unique formulation. This is the Artisan Dark Wax that I'm demonstrating with today. It's unique in its formulation, it's unique in its texture, and it's unique in the way that it performs. So I really was quite involved with the formulation of the dark wax, and I really wanted something where you didn't have to clear wax before using it, a dark wax that you could still move around and manipulate. You go straight on and get the instant gratification, but also at the same time making sure that you can still reverse what you're doing. So Artisan Dark Wax is what I'm demonstrating with. Super easy, it's non-tacky, like that is all dry already. Cures really quickly. So now let's take a quick look at the dark wax application on an actual piece of furniture, so you can kind of see how it all works on a bigger scale. So just a quick snippet of me painting this in Sea Glass Premium Chalk Paint. You can see that I've just brushed it on every which way to create some texture on the cabinet. And here it is, all dry, looking quite flat, ready for some dark wax. So this is Sea Glass Premium Chalk Paint, nice and dry. The cabinet is really old, it's really imperfect, it's got some damage to it, so the dark wax is really going to create a finish that is in keeping with all the imperfections that this cabinet has. So I'm applying it on, you can see I'm just brushing it out, really spreading that wax right out, and you can see I'm not loading it up with heaps and heaps of wax, it's just a small amount of wax and then spread, spread, spread. That is absolute key. Working on a large surface like this, you can brush the wax out in all directions because you want to work it into all the textures of the brush strokes. You want to work it into all the bevels. You can see there I'm wiping the excess off, and you can see how much it's changed that Artisan Sea Glass. About here you might freak out a little bit, but just keep going. Cover the entire piece with dark wax, before you stand back and judge it. So you need to follow the process basically, because if you were to compare the left side with the right side, it's quite a stark contrast. And a lot of the times you can't see the whole picture, but just keep with it, keep dark waxing. And I often feel like when you're working, doing half like this, and you can still see the other half, it can throw you off. Now here I'm just putting a little bit of dark wax on my brush, and I'm actually going through the process of darkening it at this point before I've even highlighted. So you can choose to do that either after highlighting or before highlighting, or a bit of both really. So I'm just going through and just darkening some areas that I feel like needs to be a little bit darker. So you can see I'm focusing on the corners, around the bevels, and just tapping it very, very lightly with some dark wax, and just kind of emphasizing and accentuating those areas a little bit more. Now we're on to the clear wax part. Now I'm just going to show you on an actual piece of furniture how you can remove the dark wax. So I've picked up some clear wax on my brush, and just in this corner I'm just going in a scrubby motion, wiping back to show you we can still remove the dark wax if we wanted to. So a really big tip to give you a lot of confidence when it comes to dark waxing. So now I'm going through and highlighting all the panels and wiping back. You can see how much of a difference this makes. It brings the sea glass back. It kind of allows you to pull back and bring more of the original colour through. The dark wax becomes more of a detail rather than covering the entire panel. It creates depth, it creates dimension, and it's up to you how far back or how much you want to highlight. So the more you pull back and the more you wipe back with the clear wax, the more subtle the dark wax will be. So I often like to do it this way because dark wax will deepen the original colour by a shade or two, or add some warmth to it. So I want the entire piece to be kind of like the same colour, and then I go back and do some highlighting just to bring that back a little bit more. Now here's a bit of a bonus clip. I'm applying Vienna Gold Metallic Glide onto the bevels and just kind of adding a bit of a metallic touch. I'm doing this straight after the dark wax because it's kind of the dark wax hasn't set yet, so it kind of smudges it in. It gives it a more rustic kind of application for the cabinet. So now I'm up to the sanding part. So 240 grit sandpaper. I'm very lightly, you're just kind of skimming the surface with the sandpaper, and you can see it's kind of scuffing, it's bringing out the texture, and it's adding another level of age and depth to it. It's bringing out the texture a lot more. So if you don't want it to be super rustic, then don't do this step. Just leave it at the dark wax and you're done. But if you're wanting to kind of add another layer of age, then go ahead and lightly scuff and sand, and you can kind of see the effect there. And here's a little bit of a close-up shot of the finish. So you can see that sanding, the dark wax, how it's gathered in all the corners, the Vienna Gold Glide, creating a really lovely kind of aged rustic finish for this cabinet. And here I am about to work the second door. So that's pretty much it. I just thought it'd be worth showing you this part of it so you can actually see it being worked on a big piece of furniture, just to kind of reiterate what was shown on the board on a bigger scale. So the key here is really spread your dark wax out. If you've picked up a lot on your brush, just spread it out nice and thin over your piece of furniture. Then wipe the excess off. On that first step, don't worry too much. Don't get too hung up on the details of your dark waxing, because you know you're going to come back and refine it a little bit more with your clear wax when you go to do your highlighting. Know that you can always go back with dark waxing. You can use your clear wax as an eraser, so don't be fearful of it. I hope that this video has given you a lot more confidence to tackle your dark wax project. knowing that you can always reverse what you're doing. There is no such thing as a mistake when it comes to dark waxing. And when it comes to detailing, it's what you like. There is no right or wrong. It's the story that you're looking to create on your piece of furniture. It's the areas that you want to emphasize, the areas that you want to highlight. Dark wax is all about creating a story on your piece of furniture. It's about creating age, it's about creating patina, and it's ideal for the older style pieces where you can work in with its imperfections. Now, when I go to show you this cabinet in its entirety soon, you'll see that the corners have actually been chewed on by my dogs. There's parts of it missing, but that a finish like this really works in with an imperfect cabinet. The actual bones and the cabinet in itself is actually really beautiful, and even more so when it's kind of given a new look or a new lease on life with this kind of finish. And here it is, front on with afternoon light on it. You can see it in its whole entirety. So when you're doing a large piece like this, spend the last 5 minutes once you're finished standing back and making those final adjustments, you know, highlighting by removing a little bit of dark wax, lightening and darkening here and there until you're happy with the overall look, because now you know how to do it. Now, a beautiful finish for an imperfect piece. You can see on the corners there, that's where my puppies chewed the corners. There's parts missing, there's broken bits, but I've used the dark wax and Vienna Gold Glide to really make those imperfections a feature. So I'm working with the imperfections rather than against it. So choosing a finish like this on those imperfect pieces is absolutely ideal, and it kind of just makes it all part of it. Those imperfections no longer kind of stand out. So what I really want people to take away from this is that dark wax is not scary at all. It's actually one of the most fun things to do when it comes to decorative painting, because when you apply the dark wax, it's not the be all and end all. You can still move it, you can still erase it, you can highlight it, you can lighten it, you can adjust it to suit with just a little know-how, and now you know how. So I hope this helps to provide heaps of confidence when you go to do your next dark wax project. I absolutely love this cabinet. It's sitting on my covered porch area, and it's holding my citronella candles and candle holders, and I've made an old piece look old in my way. So that's it from me. I hope you were able to take something away from this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you again very soon.